Good morning. It's time for a daily devotional. The passage we're looking at this morning is Revelation 21:3. It says, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among people, and he will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be their God." I grew up in the South, and there was a question set and answer that I heard a lot of times growing up. People would ask the question, "Are you a Christian?" And the answer invariably would be, "My family and I attend church every Sunday." This morning, as I got up and began to pray and talk to God, the thought came to my heart that we're not in church every Sunday anymore. And for many of us, we've lost that thing that made us Christians. Not only have we lost the ability to go to church on Sunday, but many of us have gotten distracted. We've gotten caught up in things of this new order of life that we're trying to find or discover. And we've gotten so distracted that matters of faith have become an afterthought, something that only comes every once in a while. And that grieves my heart. My heart's cry this morning is, don't quit. Don't give up on the faith. It's not a time to let your faith fade. It's a time for us to fan our faith. Now listen, the organized church has been a wonderful trellis for believers to grow on for years and years and years. It's been like a stake that you would put on a tomato plant that we could grow up. But I believe that God's wanting to do a new thing. I believe that God is wanting to break out of the temple once again. That scripture that says they will be his people and he will be their God. I believe that's what God's trying to accomplish here. It's not time to let our faith fade. It's not time to lose our faith. It's time to put down roots, to grow roots deep into our faith. I'm reminded of the diaspora Jews, the Jews that were scattered all over the world, and they were scattered to the four edges of the earth, and many times there was not a synagogue anywhere near. But they didn't lose their faith, and they didn't lose their Jewishness. Why? Because God had set up an order. He had set up a way in order for them to keep fellowship, and in order for them to keep their identity. If you remember, in the Jewish household, the head of the household, especially on the Sabbath, especially at Sabbath meals, they would sit down and they would pray, and they would worship God, and they would tell the stories. And so what would really be happening there is they would begin to worship God around the table of his provision, right there. Listen, I know you can't get to a church right now, or at least if you can, it's controversial and it's strange and it's weird. But what I do want you to know is that you can still be a Christian. You can not only come through this thing, unscathed faith-wise, but you can actually come out of this thing stronger. And I believe that this is what God's wanting to do on the earth right now. I believe that God is trying to break out of multi-million-dollar church buildings and places where we put him and sequestered him in these four walls. And I believe that God is trying to get to your table and get into your life and get into my life and to be a group of people that dwells in him and he dwells with them wherever they go. I believe this is what God's doing in the earth. Please, if you are one of those Christians and your answer has always been, the reason why I am a Christian is because I go to church every Sunday, I want to encourage you, continue to go to church every Sunday and let that church be your table. Let that church be your living room. Let that church be beside your bed. Let your children see you pray, and let them hear you tell the stories, and let them hear you talk about how good God is. Let that be the new normal. And I'll tell you that if that happens, then not only will the church prevail, that big building that we all attend, yeah, it won't be able to hold the people that are seeing real lives changed, real connection with God, a group of people who are a people of God, and a God who's a God with his people.